congregation, and all of a sudden I saw Keith like stand up and wave, and he went to the trailer. So right, he had worked hard, he had put in his time, and he needed some time to refresh. Exactly, he was just being like Christ. So, Carl, that could be. That could be. It's past 3 o'clock. You got to get out of the office, right? So, yeah, I think this is a good context to talk about the recreation side of life, right? It's important. It was important to Christ. Christ saw the hard work that his disciples had put in, and he knew they needed time to refresh, right? I love the term, let's go to a desolate place. People, I think, refresh in different ways. I just thought I'd throw this out for a little discussion. I don't know that Ryan will be able to get around to everybody as quick on here because it's probably going to be rapid fire, but just curious, just to kind of get to know everybody a little bit more. Anybody want to share what their quote-unquote desolate place is? Sometimes it's not so desolate. Sometimes we get refreshed by being around a lot of people. So, Kathy?
And I can't go on vacations or anything like that. I will just sit in my cozy little corner and put myself into this place up in Potter County, and it's beautiful up there, God's country. And
all of Potter County is desolate.
Yeah, pretty much. And so I was in Cinnamahoning Lake. It was an absolutely beautiful lake. And my dad took me fishing for the first time. I was 10 years old. And he taught us how to fish. He taught each and every one of us, took us out separate. And I was sitting in this boat. I caught my first fish. I was so excited. So then we went out and we rowed the boat into the middle of the lake, into this desolate little place. I was surrounded by the most beautiful blue sky, no clouds, middle of the lake with beautiful forest around me, and we look up and we see a bald eagle full spread. And it was the most beautiful, beautiful thing. So even when I'm just stressed out, you don't even have to go anywhere. Just find your little happy place and go there.
Anybody else? Val?
My place of refreshment is any place where all my grandkids and kids are together. It doesn't matter where we are. If all 10 of us are together, that's my happy.
That's a great comment. Justin's going to go next. I'm going to guess he's going to say my desolate place is where all my family and kids are with Val, and he's by himself, right? Go ahead. Was that your porch? There you go. What else? Anybody else? Jill. What's that? Back deck. That's good. So, Susan, go on a hike. Anybody go exercise? Anybody run for this desolate day? I'm meaning in the past 2 decades. So. I've never understood that. I've tried running to lose weight, and that was the only reason. And I talk to these people that say, I get up in the morning, I run, it refreshes me. I get refreshed lying in that bed. Carl kept making fun of me for how long I slept in on Saturday morning. That's a lot more refreshing than running along some road. So. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
I shoot
Stephanie.
archery.
What's that?
I shoot archery.
Archery.
Yeah.
Shoot archery. In fact, she loves it so much, and her husband knows her so well that the new house is going to have an archery range in the basement. So, Linda, Linda has to be gardening, right?
My place is upstairs where my grandparents was, and it's where we studied the Bible and everything, so we did. And that's the place where I go to. But when I can't go to that place, I think of my grandparents and my parents and the good times we had, so we did.
That's great.
Jesus and relaxes.
Great. I'd say, if it's around here, you guys probably know, it probably has to do with golfing. Like, after a day of work, and again, Debbie knows me well, I'll call her, start talking about the day of work, and she'll say, hey, why don't we, when you get home, why don't we just go up to country club, and I'll play 9 holes, she'll walk, and it just is just a nice way to kind of get away and refresh. Although I do love, somebody said about going on hikes and things, I do love going up seeing mountains. So if I had my best trips, it's probably in the mountains to see bald eagles and things that sort. So. Anybody else want to share their? Matt? I can believe it.
On a motorcycle somewhere.
Okay, mowing grass or on a motorcycle. Jacob?
I think what I would do, I would probably take out the trash
That's good.
and some things like helping my grandma out
That's excellent.
and taking the groceries out of my grandma's car. I would do that.
That's good, right? Helping others can help refresh us and refocus us. Is recreation a good thing, a bad thing? Is it a sin? It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's good. Obviously, it depends on the recreation you're engaged in. But overall, it's good. As long as God is ahead of it in the hierarchy of things, it's good. There's a guy named Gene Hibbett one time told me, he said, anything that you love more than you love God becomes your idol.
Right.
So it's possible for recreation to become an idol, but overall it's good.
Right. How many people, maybe that's not the right way to phrase it. It's actually the Monday lesson here. I'll just say it this way. How many people enjoyed the pandemic that we went through? Kind of a strange way to say it, right? Obviously, yeah. Obviously, there are a lot of bad things that happened, right? A lot of people got sick, a lot of heartache, a lot of sadness with people passing away. But I think that most of us would likely agree that it probably did remind us, teach us the importance of being more with family, having more time to recharge and refresh ourselves.
Yeah, I found that I became closer to God because I was sick. I lost my mom. I needed to reach out more than I thought I ever could. And my son started going to church online,
Mm-hmm.
because he realized that he was missing a lot more than he realized after losing his grandma. And I was really able to have time to reflect on myself and make the changes that I needed to make.
That's really should be the purpose of our recreation, right? It's a time to re-energize, refocus. We go through a lot of stress in our daily lives, and it's easy to just kind of stay under that stress and keep going and keep going and keep going. And sometimes we need to step aside, just like we see here in Mark 6. What did disciples have just gone through watching the master of their life, who they followed for 3 years, doing all these wonderful miracles, going all these places, traveling, ministering to people. They just went through a horrendous week of watching him come into the city and then ultimately get thrashed with whips and hung on a cross and put in a tomb. What did the disciples do at that point? John chapter 21. What are several of them doing? Yeah. They said, hey, let's go fishing right now. I don't understand fishing as a recreation. I know a lot of people love it. To me, it's just a bunch of work. You have a little bit of fun, and then you got to like clean up a big mess. Like that doesn't sound like fun to me. But that was their refreshing time, right? And as they were going through that hardship, they needed to be refreshed, right? And it's during that time, John chapter 21, one of my favorite stories in the Gospels. Jesus comes to them, tells them to cast the net on the other side. They realize, wait a minute, this has happened before, and immediately, they're recharged and ready to go and fight the cause for Christ. So, we need to realize that recreation should be a diversion. It can enter into a problem if it's no longer a diversion, but it becomes our daily practice, right? I always joke about, golfing for work and things of that sort. I feel like over the past month, it's work because I'm with clients, but it's really starting to become more of a hindrance of getting my work done than refreshing. So, I know, it's bad. So we got to make sure that, we still return, right, get our responsibilities done, but we have to make sure we have time for refreshing ourselves. Jesse, if you can flip over to that passage in 1 Timothy. So this is 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 17. So, just kind of answering the question, is it okay to have fun? Is it okay to have recreation? I think I recall years ago. I think this was when I was a teenager and we were doing Labor Day lectureships. I think I remember who the preacher was, but I won't say because I don't know for sure. I think I remember him doing a lesson that really made me feel guilty or made me think, wow, like maybe as Christians we aren't supposed to go hunting or fishing or golfing because it's taking time away from serving Christ. But you see here, 1 Timothy chapter 6, as for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who does what? Who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. That is refreshing in my mind to know that God's provided us opportunities to enjoy life, right? God doesn't want us to just grow miserable because we're dealing with the stress and anxieties of this world. He wants us to be able to enjoy life. If you keep scrolling down there, they are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. I think that continues that idea. Have fun, enjoy the blessings that God has given to you. But remember, when you're doing that there's a purpose. And it should be refreshing you so that either in that activity or, in your other normal daily lives, you're refreshed and you're ready to share those blessings with others. To share, not only your wealth, but your time, your energy, share the gospel message, share your love with others. Any thoughts or comments there? I'm not hearing any. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, I think carries the same idea. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12, Jesse. As he's going there, I'll brag on Jesse. So I had the pleasure of having Jesse stay with me last weekend since Scott was away and Stephanie was on the ladies' day. He was great. He worked the whole time. He worked with Matt for one day while I was at work, and then Saturday I said, hey, you want to do some things? So he helped me around the house, and then we came up. If you notice, the patio downstairs has been completely cleaned off. I wouldn't advise it, but you probably could have actually taken your food out and put it in the trash cans out there and eaten off that, because Jesse scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed. They actually smelled really good by the time he was done scrubbing those. We cleaned off the patio. He painted the patio, so you can thank Jesse for being willing to do a lot of that work. So, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be dominated by any things, right? It's easy to fall in the trap of, this recreational activity now becomes my daily activity, now distracts from my work, my wife, my kids, my church family, right? We got to be careful that we understand God's blessings of enjoyment, has its purpose, but we also have our responsibilities. We have to continue to serve God. We have to continue to love our family. I think it's easy to turn those recreational activities into things that are tearing your family apart. And if it gets to that point, that recreation has become an obsession, and you need to walk away from it and find better ways to refresh. Jesse, why don't you, I'm not sure I gave this one to you in writing. How about Acts chapter 16, verse 13? So here's another example. Paul's been working. I should have taken a look, see if I catch as we go down through here. I forget where he's even at this point. Keep going down to verse 16. No, I'm sorry, verse 13. So on the Sabbath day, Paul went outside the gate to the riverside where we supposed there was a place of prayer, and we sat down and spoke to the women who had come together. One who heard us was a woman named Lydia from the city of Thyatira, a seller of purple. I think we all know the story here, but the day of Sabbath was a day of what? Rest. Who set that example? God did, right? God himself took a day to refresh, recover. That example, continued, and Paul takes that day of rest and wanders up along a stream. I think, Susan, this kind of sounds like your comment, hey, let's go for a walk. Let's walk along this beautiful stream, kind of re-energize. But in that, pleasure, activity, what did he also find the time to do? To pray. What else? And to teach or build relationships, right? He says, hey, I think there's some women up here. Let's go for this stroll. Let's enjoy the day, but let's go up and kind of help build the community. And I think that's an important part of our recreation, right? I mentioned going on the golf course. When I do that in the evenings, almost always Debbie goes with me. Because it's a time to build those relationships, right? During COVID, Nathan and even Elizabeth, we were able to get out and walk on the golf course. So we gotta think of those opportunities. I think of just what happens here. We have the basketball hoop. I forget. I was talking to somebody about that basketball hoop just this weekend. I think that was put in 1998, maybe. I think it was right around when we were graduating from college. That piece of concrete has lasted for a good while. I've seen a lot of basketball games. I know I've shown up here a couple times. Marcus is up there shooting. Marcus this morning was out there shooting with, was it you, Jesse? Yeah, Jesse and Marcus. Recreation, but a time to build relationships, right? We need to look at those opportunities. Think about, okay, I'm going to go out and refresh, but is this an opportunity that I can bring somebody along and build that relationship? 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4 through 7. I told you we're going to do a short lesson, so I'm getting close to the end here. Certainly, some other comments can be made if anybody has them. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4 through 7. I'm trying to read what my note says, and I'm not even sure what I wrote there. Oh, I see. And all drank from the spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that followed them, and the rock was Christ. So this is talking about the Israelites going out into the wilderness. God had blessed them in so many ways. They should be excited and be willing to serve Him and do what's right. They literally drank from spiritual rock for water. But it says, nevertheless, with most of them God was not pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now these things took place as examples for us that we, keep scrolling down, Jesse, might not desire evil as they did. Do not be idolaters as some of them were. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and then rose up to what? To play, right? Okay to sit down and eat and drink. We just did that, right? But there are times where you got to rise up and do God's work and not just solely focus on playtime. And I think it's easy to get caught up in that. Susan?
Single day of rest. It was just drudgery 7 days a week, as slavery basically is. But whenever God gave them that Sabbath day, I'll bet they were like, wow, it's kind of nice, we get 1 day a week where we can worship God, get together with our friends, our family, and that even just Sunday is a refreshing day, just to come and worship. I don't know, I find that refreshing.
Right.
Personally, I look forward to church on Sundays. It's part of my refreshment, I guess.
Absolutely. Right. I think I want to wrap up with this final scripture, final thought. Jesse, if you can find the passage in Psalms chapter 16. So, I think we've all kind of concluded that recreation is an important part of our life. God has blessed us with the opportunity to enjoy the blessings that He's created for us. We need to make sure, just like in everything, excess of anything is usually a bad thing. So there's times to enjoy life, to sit down and eat and even play, but there's also times to get up and work and serve Him and build relationships and communities. Psalm 16, verse 11, encourages us by saying, "You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore." I think we got to remember that if we're looking for pleasures, yes, we'll find some pleasure in recreational things. I'll find pleasure sometimes in hitting a great golf shot, or hopefully one day hitting a hole-in-one. Still trying, never did. We'll find pleasure in catching a big fish or, shooting a big buck. We'll find pleasure in growing the perfect flower or tomato plant, I guess. Might find pleasure in running a marathon. Dave, that I guess is your challenge, right? But our real pleasure comes from God, right? Our real pleasure, Psalm 16, verse 11, at your right hand are pleasures not just for this life, but forevermore. We need to be seeking those pleasures out. We need to realize that those blessings have always come from God, always will come from God. We need to be focused on the pleasures that we'll have in heaven with Him throughout eternity. There might be some that are struggling with hardships, with relationships, with just difficult times in their lives that are keeping them from realizing the true pleasure that God has in store for us. We're here to help people at all times, not just when we're here Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Wednesday evenings. You know, as a congregation, we're here for you all the time. Pick up the phone, call, let us know, you know, what you're dealing with. You have brothers and sisters that are willing to help carry those burdens, carry those loads, get you through those tough times. But if anybody has anything that you're struggling with that you'd like to make known that we can help you with, go ahead and come forward as together we stand and sing.
Days are filled with sorrow and care, hearts are lonely and drear. Burdens are laid at Calvary, Jesus is very near. Burdens are laid at Calvary, Calvary, Calvary. Burdens are lifted at Calvary, Jesus is very near. Cast your care on Jesus today. Leave your worry and fear. Burdens are lifted at Calvary, Jesus is very near. Burdens are lifted at Calvary, Calvary, Calvary. Burdens are lifted at Calvary, Jesus is very near. Troubled soul, the Savior can see every heartache and tear. Burdens are lifted at Calvary, Jesus is very near. Burdens are lifted at Calvary, Calvary, Calvary. Burdens are lifted at Calvary, Jesus is very near.
Father,